With all great sports, great teams, and great traditions on every level comes great support backing them. Reitz's football program began in 1919, winning its first state title in 1933. This was the beginning of a rich, steady tradition that would become one of the most iconic in the city, and especially on the west side of Evansville. With such a reputable team and program forming, interest and support groups began to form as well to watch and encourage the great feats the team was to accomplish. In the earliest days of Reitz, the football team's support was led by one peppy yell leader that stood alone with her megaphone to rally the crowd in cheers. Reitz's first yell leader was Wanda Miller in 1923. As time continued, the number of yell leaders grew to become an unofficial group known as the Pep Squad that had no formal responsibilities except to lead existing school cheers. This group changed yet again in 1952 when Reitz formed its first official cheerleading squad, a team very different than the cheerleaders we know today. Former Reitz cheerleader and former cheer coach Sandy McFall explains the difficulty and glory of the three-step tryout that it took to become part of this new elite cheer team in 1964, just 12 years after the program began.
The first time you cheered, the student body voted, and there would be maybe 100 girls trying out.
With such a high interest in being part of this selective group, competition was tough in being a part of this important team.
And had to do an individual cheer, and then the student body voted and selected basically 10 girls, 5 for varsity and 5 for reserve. So it was very difficult, and as I said, there were a lot of disappointed girls through those years, myself being one of them.
This being until her senior year when she was voted captain of the cheer team. Though cheerleading is still a competitive group to become a part of, cheerleading has grown to have very different responsibilities. Modern cheerleaders can flip, fly, dance, and perform like they never did before, but a large part of their namesake has gone away.
I just think there's been a little bit lost from the whole feeling of cheerleading. Yeah, basically I'd still like to see the good old cheerleaders doing the leading of cheers.
But where did the literal cheerleading go? As the Reitz cheer team gradually began to grow, the team itself became more competitive, going to numerous national cheer competitions during the 1990s. With the cheer team growing and having more responsibilities, another group started to lead the chants and rally the team, the Reitz Rowdies. Starting in 2003, Reitz's student section began to form into what would today be known as one of the biggest, loudest, and most intense student sections in the area.
I think Craig Prindle in 2003 started the hey, 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 yeah chant, and that kind of carried over. And then that was kind of what we led with. We started to carry that one over, and it just kind of grew from there. We started doing other stuff. We pulled other stuff in depending on who we were playing. And it just kind of snowball effect from that.
This was the beginning of a group that now brings in several hundred students for big games that all dress alike in one unified theme and has grown from having one iconic chant to close to 20 chants each game. But how was it in the beginning?
We kind of didn't really do themes. We just had our core group that we would always paint our bodies blue and spell out Reitz. And we got these huge 4 by 8 foot styrofoam sections and made a giant D and a giant fence out of them that we'd bring to all the games to start the defense chant. Every week we were trying to come up with something different to get more involved and be as loud as we possibly could.
And successful they were in their mission to grow louder.
I remember one year during Fall Festival we got a bunch of those blow horns like the Minnesota Vikings have. And I remember we used to blow those as loud as we could. When the other team had the ball, they couldn't hear anything. And I remember they got on the PA system and told the student section that we had to put our blowhorns away. So we put our blowhorns away, and then we just yelled as loud as probably louder than we've ever yelled before to try to make up for that sound.
This game might have marked the beginning of the most important idea the Rowdies follow, to always yell louder.
So I'd say that's probably the rowdiest and loudest we were, is when they start trying to take things away from us because we were too loud. We just make up for it by yelling even louder.
With this surge of support, loudness was key, and with hundreds of students, the cheerleaders just had to follow suit.
Like I said, we picked up that hey, 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 yeah chant. And I mean, I kind of led it just because I was the loudest one. So I mean, I'd lead that and then everybody would yell. And then the cheerleaders, I mean, they really had no choice. They had to join in. I mean, I think they were having just as much fun as we were.
So why the name Rowdy?
I think that was always just kind of what the student section called themselves, the Reitz Rowdies.
But the early student section identified as the Pep Squad, or simply the student section. So who were the first Reitz Rowdies?
A group of teenagers, raising all kinds of cane and having fun. That's what it was. That's what we were.
And where did such an iconic name come from?
And the name Rowdy, if I'm not mistaken, back in those days, Hank Williams Jr. was a big artist, country artist. But his whole mantra was rowdy. All my rowdy friends have settled down. All my rowdy friends are coming over tonight. He had a whole album named Rowdy. That's where we got it from.
Today's Rowdies came from a combination of a dedicated, supportive, cheering section and a group of wild teenagers. But growing from one yell leader leading an entire crowd to a group of hundreds of students becoming the heart and soul that the team looks to for support calls into question what lies in the future of cheering at Reitz. How will Reitz continue to grow, and what traditions will continue to form to support such a steady and successful sports program? No matter what the future holds, no matter who is leading the cheers, no matter what name they identify under, one thing will hold true.
It was, I felt it was a great honor to cheer for Reitz High School.
I don't know if anybody's going to be able to do as much as we did. I'd say we were probably the loudest group by far.
Just like I remember our little group back in 1991, you guys are always going to remember this.
This support is something no Reitz student forgets.